So today we're going to talk about functions. And when I talk about functions, I tend to get a little bit abstract. So I'm going to refer to the function f of x equals the square root of x plus 3 whenever I feel myself getting a little too pie in the sky. Now, just a disclaimer, we are only talking about real numbers. There are no complex numbers in our world right now. So let's keep that in mind. Now, when I talk about f, a function is two things. It includes a domain and a recipe. Now, let me talk about domain first. Domain is what you're allowed to put in your function. Now here, let me just use an example, right? So I can plug in 6, right? Because this equals the square root of 6 plus 3, which is the square root of 9, which is 3, right? So 6 is in my domain. It's not special that ended up being a perfect square. If I plug in 3, I end up with the square root of 3 plus 3, and that's the square root of 6. And so 3 is also in my domain. Both of these are fine. However, if I plug in f of negative 4, I end up with the square root of negative 4 plus 3, which is equal to the square root of negative 1, which in our world, our real world, doesn't exist. So negative 4 is not in the domain of f. The recipe part is much easier to see, right? It's just whatever I say f of x is equal to. And the reason I call it a recipe is you give me an x, I stick it in this guy, and then it cooks up something, whatever it is. Now, it can only give me one thing. It's not allowed to give me more than one. And you can see here, I'll only get one thing, right? Any number I choose to plug in is going to give me one unique answer. So why is this significant? Well, remember before we were talking about circles. So let's consider the circle given by the equation x squared plus y squared equals 25. Now, when x equals 3, we get 3 squared plus y squared equals 25, which is 9 plus y squared equals 25, which means that y squared equals 16. But now, y then can equal plus or minus square root of 16, which is, of course, plus or minus 4. And so we don't get one unique thing out of it. So here, y is not a function of x. And so when we're talking about functions, we're really going to get everything on one side and then f of x or the letter y on the other. That's going to be significant for us. And in the next video, we're going to talk about how to find those domains and how to interpret what they mean.